The story centers on Akagi and his sister Ayumi, who live in a world where gates to the monster realm appear everywhere. Humans with special powers, called Awakened Ones, enter these gates to eliminate the monsters inside. Ayumi is one of them, bravely clearing gates while her brother stays behind. But one day, everything changes when a man named Yaichi sneaks into a gate and ends her life, all to create a revenge story for Akagi. Crushed by grief, Akagi falls into despair. That darkness awakens a demon within him, who grants him flame powers fueled by online chaos and emotional pain. From then on, Akagi survives by streaming his fights, drawing strength from the internet's outrage and sorrow. With every broadcast, he gets closer to one goal, tracking down Yaichi and making him pay for what he did to Ayumi once. Several doors appear all around the world that no one can open, rake, or move. People try everything, but nothing works. Then, after a few years, they suddenly open without any warning, and monsters of different races begin to raid the human world. The sky turns red from the bloody massacre. Cities fall, and screams fill the air. Amid the destruction, an angel descends upon the earth with a merciless heart. He shows no emotion and repeats only one phrase. There are 7 messengers. I am the first one. Our boy Akagi and his sister Ayumi are among the helpless people being brutally massacred. When a monster moves in to attack Ayumi, he throws himself over her and shouts that he will protect her. But just as he shields her with his body, the monster strikes in with its weapon, and he ends up with one foot in the grave. Ayumi can't bear to see her brother die, so she starts crying and begs God to save him. She promises that in return, she will be a good girl. Then, for some reason, her body begins to shine like a star, and the sparkles that burst from her light even destroy the monster right there. The next moment, Akagi opens his eyes and finds himself lying in a hospital bed. Completely healed, he looks around in confusion, wondering what happened to him. Just then, a doctor walks in and tells him that he narrowly escaped death, thanks to someone who awakened at just the right time. The doctor goes on to explain that ever since the doors opened, 24% of the population has gained supernatural abilities, and these people are now known as the Awakened. Because of them, humanity was able to avoid the worst-case scenario. Among those awakened is Ayumi, who possesses the light attribute, giving her the powers of healing and purification. Right after that, Ayumi comes running into the room, tears of joy streaming down her face as she throws her arms around her brother and holds him tight. Years later, the world manages to survive and slowly return to peaceful days. After the disaster, more gates begin to appear, and humans start clearing them in preparation for the arrival of the second messenger. The ones actively fighting inside these gates are known as hunters. In this modern world, hunters bring their cameras with them to record gate-clearing missions and share the exciting footage online. Ayumi is one of them, using her powers well by clearing dungeons and streaming the whole thing live. Since she's a total cutie pie, she naturally builds a strong fandom and gains plenty of loyal followers. One day, Ayumi plans to clear a silver gate that her senpai, Mina's Rika, recommended. Rika told her it's time she starts taking on B-rank solos, so Ayumi sets out determined to live up to her expectations. While checking her stream, she spots some nasty comments aimed at Rika and quickly blocks the users. She also gives her viewers a clear warning that if anyone posts abusive remarks, she will block them without hesitation. It has been a full year since she started streaming, all because she wanted to become independent. Meanwhile, our boy Akagi works as an engineer. He also helps on the side by filming her gate runs, holding the camera as she clears the path. He feels grateful that Ayumi has someone like Rika guiding her, but at the same time, he's shocked to see so much hate filling the live chat during the stream. Rika herself is actually watching the broadcast, and the cruel comments about her make her visibly anxious and upset. Ayumi steps into the gate and immediately takes on the approaching goblins using her intermediate technique called Ray Fall. Still, the B-rank dungeon proves to be tough, and she decides to finish them all in one blow. So she unleashes an advanced technique called Harvest of Stella. The move is dazzling and absolutely captivating, but it drains a huge chunk of her mana. Her fans begin to worry, and even Akagi looks concerned as he watches her from behind the camera. He can't help but think how useful it would be if he were awakened too, just to be able to support her. However, Ayumi quickly reassures everyone in the chat, saying she's got this and will defeat them. With determination, she swings her staff and fires off an attack called Angelic Wave, powerful enough to wipe out all the enemies at once. She lights up with excitement after clearing the gate, and Akagi feels confident they made the right call by trusting Rika's advice. Still, the online hate toward Rika doesn't die down. One random guy keeps trash-talking her and spams the chat with the same abusive message over and over. Akagi points the camera toward Ayumi as she decides to take a short break. But then, something unexpected happens. Viewers suddenly notice someone hiding nearby, peeking at them from the shadows. Rika, watching the stream, catches sight of the suspicious guy too. Her expression shifts instantly from worry to downright terrifying. She mutters under her breath that it's Ayumi's fault for dragging her reputation down like this. At that moment, Ayumi spots some goons sneaking up behind Akagi and quickly calls out to warn him. However, before he can react, a masked man strikes him hard with a steel arm, knocking him to the ground in an instant. Right after that, a yellow-haired thug steps forward and activates a combat skill called Cruel Arm. His biceps and triceps bulk up dramatically, while sparks of electricity flicker across his body. He grins and reveals that someone hired him to rough her up because she's been acting too cocky. Even so, he adds that he plans to avoid messing up her face. Ayumi looks at his arm and quickly realizes he's not someone she can reason with, so she activates her magic spell. But Blondie, strong and fast, throws a heady punch and hits her before she can react. She cries out as the impact lands, and the entire scene continues to stream live. Her strength quickly fades, and she stops moving. After seeing that she's no longer able to fight back, Blondie walks out of the dungeon, leaving the rest of his group behind. They talk about feeding her to the monster they expect will show up soon, drawn by the scent of blood. As expected, a leech-type monster appears and starts crawling toward them. They plan to toss Ayumi to it first, then deal with her brother, but suddenly, flames start rising from Akagi's body, even though he was supposed to be powerless. Still lying on the ground, he calls out Ayumi's name. Those dudes stare in shock, realizing that he might have awakened an ability after all. Akagi slowly begins to regain consciousness and tries to move his body, reminding himself of the promise he made to Ayumi to protect her at any cost. A chilling voice whispers to him, asking if he wants power. It tells him to gather his rage and let his body burn with anger. His blurry eyes land on the camera, still filming Ayumi's lifeless body, her eyes wide open and filled with tears. That image ignites something deep within him, and the flames of rage surrounding him grow even more intense. He forces himself up onto his feet, and the sight makes the thugs visibly anxious. Even so, one of them dares to believe that Akagi is barely alive and still easy to finish off. He uses his earth attribute to shatter the ground and hurl chunks of rock toward him. However, the flames around Akagi block the attack as he continues walking forward, each step slow and heady, while his whole body feels like it is burning. One guy nervously suggests calling their boss, but the other quickly stops him, warning that the boss might kill them too if they interfere. While the two goons are busy arguing, Akagi catches up to them and incinerates one of them on the spot. The other guy, thinking quickly, uses his wind attribute spell to blow away the flames surrounding Akagi. He takes advantage of the moment to flee, running with his tail between his legs. Exhausted and scorched, Akagi drops to the ground and begins crawling toward his sister, softly calling out her name. As he gets closer, he remembers her soft words, how she once said she wanted to keep smiling for the people who looked at her, even if her heart carried painful memories. Reaching her lifeless body, he gently lets flames wrap around her, allowing them to turn her into ashes. He does not want anyone to see her like this, and with that final act, he shields her from the eyes of the world. Out of nowhere, Akagi finds himself in a strange place engulfed in flames, with fire consuming everything around him. A hideous demon appears and greets him in his own twisted way. Staying calm, Akagi wonders if this is hell, and if he ended up here after burning people. He looks around but does not see his sister anywhere. The demon grins and tells him that there is no such thing as hell or heaven, that humans simply turn to ashes when they die. The demon then introduces himself as Vox, a member of the demon tribe, and explains that this burning world is one he created. He also reveals that Akagi is still alive. Confused and overwhelmed, Akagi questions everything Vox is telling him. Vox casually replies that he is the enemy of the messengers from heaven, and for now, that is all Akagi needs to understand. Without wasting any time, Vox offers him a contract. He proudly claims that the raging fire Akagi just felt is a power far beyond what any human should possess, and that with it, he could become a god or a demon. However, Akagi refuses without hesitation, saying that he no longer needs such power. Vox chuckles and questions him, asking if he truly has no desires. If that were the case, then why is he still burning with rage and anger? He insists that Akagi must accept his emotions and turn that fury into strength. After all, Vox only awakened because of Akagi's rage. Flames begin to cover Akagi's body as he demands to know why Vox is doing all of this. Vox tells him that he is starving from devouring despair, and he plans to feast on it by granting Akagi power in exchange for the despair of others. He knows that deep down, Akagi wants to drag someone into the same darkness. At that moment, Akagi screams in pain, and Ayumi's smile flashes through his mind. That memory breaks him, and he instantly agrees to the contract. Akagi takes a deep breath and calms himself down, then asks Vox how he is supposed to use this new power. Amused by the shift in his expression, Vox grins and explains that this world is different. Here, Akagi will not feel hunger, will not need to sleep, and cannot die. To help him learn, Vox creates dummy monsters for him to fight and master the power he has just gained. Without hesitation, Akeji channels his rage, his body engulfed in flames, and charges at the dummies. In his mind, he pictures one of them as Asakura and begins pummeling it relentlessly. He doesn't stop there. Day after day, he keeps attacking every single dummy, pouring his fury into each blow. A whole year passes, and he stands atop the scattered remains of the dummies, surrounded by silence. Watching from afar, Vox breaks it with a comment. He says that human anger usually lasts only 6 seconds because it is an impulsive emotion, then asks Akeji how it feels now that 30 million seconds have gone by. With cold eyes and a heady presence, Akeji reflects on what he has become. He says that the emotion behind his power is no longer simple anger. It has evolved into something else entirely. Pleased with the answer, Vox accepts it as proof of his growth and allows him to leave the realm. In the outside world, a group of guys is seen bullying a young couple. The boy tries his best to shield his girlfriend, standing in front of her despite being clearly outmatched. One of the bullies throws a hard punch and then stomps on his head, mocking him for thinking that conquering the gates is some noble mission to save the world. He laughs at the idea, calling it ridiculous since the guy is too weak to make a difference. Turning to one of the newcomers in their group, the bully calls him out and asks if he has not learned anything from the Ayumi incident that happened a year ago. The newbie freezes as he watches the scene unfold. Something about this situation reminds him of that exact moment when Ayumi was murdered. He was one of the masked men back then, one of the few who managed to escape the chaos. Just then, the atmosphere shifts. Out of nowhere, our boy appears on the scene, streaming live as if he were just another fresher. The lead bully is clearly not amused by Akagi's sudden entrance and tells him to shut off the camera. Ignoring the demand, Akagi activates his flames and sets him ablaze on the spot, leaving him screaming as he burns alive. His livestream audience watches in stunned silence, some frozen in disbelief while others gasp in horror and confusion. Without missing a beat, Akagi then raises his hand and points directly at the newbie. He calls him out by name, Kisuke Sujino, and declares to everyone watching that he is one of the culprits involved in the murder from a year ago. The revelation spreads like wildfire. Some of the viewers, being loyal fans of Ayumi, immediately recognize the name and begin flooding social media with the news. A year ago, when police and even an A-rank hunter investigated the crime scene, no suspects were ever found. The rest of the gang, enraged by their friend's death, prepare to attack Akagi right then and there. They shout and rush toward him, vowing to murder him for what he just did. Akagi addresses the stream again, telling the viewers that these people are no better, exploiting the shadows to continue their crimes without consequence. He asks the audience what kind of punishment they deserve. One of the bullies charges and tries to hit him with his ability, but Akagi reacts instantly. Flames erupt from his body, burning that guy alive, followed quickly by another who tries to jump in. The audience, once shocked, now begins to cheer him on. They are clearly enjoying the sight of justice being served so brutally, though many of them remind Akagi that the true culprit, Kisuke, is still alive. Akagi throws a burst of fire at Kisuke, burning one of his arms and sending him to the ground in pain. The flames don't engulf his whole body, but the damage is enough to make him scream. At first, the livestream chat lights up with cheers, with viewers saying it serves him right. But when Kisuke starts sobbing and begging for mercy, their tone shifts. Some begin to ask Akagi to stop and hand him over to the police, insisting the law should deal with him. Akagi notices one specific comment suggesting he should cut Kisuke some slack since he's apologizing. His expression hardens as he looks directly at the camera. In a cold voice, he responds by saying, "All right, then I'll burn your parents alive and say sorry afterward. That means you'll forgive me too, right?" His message hits hard, clearly calling out the twisted logic behind that comment. He's not just angry, but making it clear that empty apologies don't erase what's been done. Akagi's words trigger a wave of backlash from the viewers. The chat quickly fills with anger, calling him a psychopath and accusing him of playing the victim. Some demand that he stop pretending to be justified and say he is no better than the people he punishes. At that moment, Vox appears behind him with a grin and points out that the users are furious and their rage is circling around Akagi. He explains that this anger fuels his power. The more hate he receives, the stronger he becomes. Vox then pushes him further, telling him to follow through on his earlier statement and burn the viewer's parents, just like he said. Akagi remains calm and replies that he never meant it. He says he lied only to provoke people and gather flames, but he has no intention of harming innocent lives. Vox shrugs it off, not really caring either way. What he craves is despair, and he is willing to take it however it comes. Akagi makes it clear that his targets are the ones who exploit this world, using chaos to commit horrible acts without consequences. He will bring justice to them, and Vox can feed off the despair they release. Vox agrees without resistance, saying that the most delicious kind of despair is the one that hits suddenly and breaks people down, just like what happened to Kisuke. Akaji mutes the livestream and calmly walks over to Kisuke, wanting to ask him something personal. Kisuke drops to his knees right away, begging for mercy and promising he will do anything. Akaji keeps his tone steady and asks him to share everything he knows about the leader. Kisuke panics and refuses, saying that if he talks, he will be dead soon anyway. Suddenly, he snaps. Instead of answering, he activates a basic wind magic technique and blasts Akaji backward. With a twisted look, he follows it up with his ultimate move, shouting that Akaji is nothing compared to his boss. The viewers, though still muted, begin to question in the chat whether Kisuke's earlier remorse was all fake. Some wonder if he has actually managed to defeat Akaji. But the flames begin to glow again. Akaji steps forward through the smoke, his body wrapped in an eerie aura of fire. He calmly states that weak winds only serve to fan the flames stronger. Then, as he walks closer, he adds something darker. People who are burned at the stake usually die from inhaling smoke before the fire ever reaches them. But his flames are not like that. They rot the body slowly, starting from the toes and climbing up to the heart, devouring everything along the way. Akaji looks down at Kisuke and calmly asks for the name of his boss along with the kind of skills he uses. Kisuke starts trembling and through his tears insists that he knows nothing. He says the man is too terrifying and even thinking about him makes his blood run cold. Akaji silently observes how deep the fear runs, impressed that someone could strike that much terror into another person's heart. He changes his approach. Lowering his voice, Akaji tells Kisuke that if he gives up the name, he will weaken the fire. Desperate and crying, Kisuke finally breaks. He blurts out the name is Kurogamiyachi. Akaji nods, then suddenly remembers he has been streaming the whole time. He picks up the camera and speaks into it, announcing that Kisuke has finally reached an understanding and that his part is done. With that, he decides to end things for now and begins walking away. Just as he turns his back, Kisuke screams out in panic, asking why the flames are still burning. Akaji stops and replies without emotion. He says it is the punishment for what Kisuke did to Ayumi, and that he should remain there, suffering in the fire, just like she did. The flames grow stronger around Kisuke as he thrashes in pain, and Vox silently appears, savoring every drop of his despair. Akaji continues walking, and in his thoughts, he sets his next targets. His prey will be Yechi, and whoever hired him. He swears to burn them alive in the name of revenge. Somewhere else, Rika watches the stream with a twisted expression, hinting that she may be the one who ordered Ayumi's death. Akaji becomes a Robin Hood in his own twisted world. His live streams go viral across the internet, gaining attention everywhere for how he handles those who commit crimes in the shadows. People start recognizing him as the one who exposes and punishes those hiding behind society's blind spots. In another part of the world, a group of 4 hunters ventures into a gate on an expedition. Things take a dark turn when one of them suddenly grabs a rookie girl and holds her hostage. He demands that the others drop their items and magic stones, then leave immediately if they want her to stay alive. Before the group can respond, Akaji appears out of nowhere, live streaming once again. He locks eyes with the man threatening the girl and instantly recognizes him. The guy is Shikigawa, an E-rank hunter with a long history of targeting other hunters. He has taken people hostage for extortion in more than 20 known cases. Although he has never directly killed anyone, 3 people lost their lives after having their belongings stolen by him. Akaji knows exactly what kind of man he is dealing with. Akaji keeps walking forward while the stream continues, and the chat begins to flood with questions. Some viewers ask if he plans to burn the hostage too. Without stopping, he responds by revealing the truth. The girl being held is Ayase Nano, a D-rank hunter who pretends to be a rookie and infiltrates hunter parties. She willingly plays the hostage to help set up situations like this. He explains that Shikigawa once tried to turn himself in after learning that his actions had indirectly led to 3 deaths, but Ayase refused to let him quit. She used violence to keep him under control and continued pushing him into more crimes. The real mastermind hiding in plain sight has been Ayase all along. Hearing her name exposed, Ayase finally snaps. She drops the innocent act and shows her true face. Power surges through her arm as she charges forward and slams her fist into the ground, sending a massive crack stretching all the way to Akagi's feet. He steps back calmly, avoiding the blow without much effort. Watching her, he quietly wonders what kind of punishment people like her truly deserve. The livestream chat lights up again, and one viewer jokes that Ayase deserves to become a hamburger. Akaji reads the comment with a cold expression, then hurls a burst of flames straight at her. The fire scorches her completely, ending it right there and leaving only Shikigawa behind. Akaji turns to him and declares that he now has a responsibility. He tells Shikigawa he must choose between turning himself in or being burned just like Ayase. Shikigawa immediately agrees to surrender, falling to his knees and crying with relief. Another viewer comments, asking what proof there is that Aias was actually threatening him. Akeji looks at the camera and replies with a cold expression, saying he doesn't need evidence when it comes to burnable garbage. He then turns away, only to hear Shikigawa thanking him quietly. Checking his device, Akeji sees the message Shikigawa had sent earlier. It contains the proof, showing that Aias had been threatening him all along. Without saying a word, Akeji deletes the chat history. Then he turns back to ask Shikigawa if he knows anything about Ayumi's murder case. But after getting no clue, Akeji quietly takes in the disappointment, already focused on the next step in his hunt. Later, Vox manifests beside him and remarks that Ayasa's despair did not taste bad, but the amount was small, and if Akeji had taken her down by surprise, he could have harvested much more despair. Akeji glares at him with cold eyes and says the power belongs to him, and he knows exactly when and where to use it. He thinks to himself that he now understands how his power works, realizing that the stronger he is flamed by others, the more powerful his flames become, and when viewers flood his streams with furious comments, hashtags, and emotional posts, his fire grows hotter, regardless of who their anger is directed at, meaning all he needs to do is gather people who are ready to vent their emotions through him. Vox interrupts his thoughts and curiously asks what name he has given to this creation. Akeji replies that it is an app called Paragram, where anonymous users can interact with him more directly than on typical messaging boards, avoiding trolls and encouraging real emotional responses. Vox shows no interest in the technical side and simply asks if Akeji will actually find the man who murdered his sister and the person behind it, and Akeji explains his plan by telling him that Yachi revealed his face during Ayumi's final broadcast, but was never captured, which means he is someone who cannot be taken down blindly, so Akeji is spreading information about himself to draw Yachi out into the open. Just then, a news alert grabs his attention, announcing that the Hunters Guild executive has issued an emergency summons to begin a large-scale manhunt for the man now known as the Flame Demon. A wave of horror begins spreading among the public as people start whispering about who might be the next target. Fear and speculation grow with every passing hour. Meanwhile, the top authority members of the Hunters Guild gather at their headquarters and take their seats around a large round table. Their leader, Sheramin, opens the meeting by thanking everyone for arriving on such short notice. He explains that the purpose of the gathering is to decide on the guild's official stance regarding the man known as Flame Demon. Jin is the first to speak, suggesting that Flame Demon is only seeking revenge for Ayumi's death. He proposes that instead of treating him as a criminal, they should consider offering leniency and help him find the real culprit. That way, he might come forward willingly. Rukawa Rai quickly disagrees, saying that justifying a crime based on motive goes against everything a guardian of ethics should stand for. The rest of the members begin sharing their thoughts, and amid the chaos, Anya speaks up with a clear suggestion. She says they should focus on capturing the ones who murdered Ayumi if they truly want to stop the cycle of revenge. Shiramin agrees and adds that the entire Hunters Guild was formed because of Ayumi's death. Everyone had been too focused on the gates and the messengers, ignoring the crimes and tragedies taking place in the shadows. Her death became the push they needed to establish this guild, and now the appearance of Flame Demon exposes their failure. They must acknowledge their shortcomings. Rukawa questions what action they actually plan to take. He does not care about the criminals themselves, but warns that if common people start getting involved, it will be too late to control. In response, Shiramin asks if his divination has shown anything yet. Rukawa replies that it has not. Shiramin then reminds him that his predictions are almost always correct, and if anything does appear, he must report it right away. When the time comes, Shiramin says he will be the one to slay Akeji himself. Rukawa hears the weight in Shiramin's voice and feels a quiet horror settle over him. In his mind, he admits that he has never cared about justice or morality. He supported the creation of the Hunters Guild only because he believed it would give him a comfortable life as an executive. He thought he could twist things in his favor and control Shiramin when needed. But now, watching him closely, Rukawa realizes that Shiramin is far beyond his reach. As an awakened one, he operates on an entirely different level. Just then, Fude speaks up with a bright smile and tells everyone to calm down. He says that if he gets the chance to use the Talk no Jutsu with Flame Demon, he believes they can come to an understanding, and confidently asks that they leave this situation to him. No one in the room raises any objections. Seeing that, Shiramin nods and gives Fute the responsibility to handle it. After that, the ever-smiling Futa heads over to the IT department and casually asks one of the staff members to show him what he requested earlier. The technician nods and plays a clip from the livestream. As the footage rolls, they both notice that Akagi's face is strangely blurry. It is not a technical glitch. It looks intentional, like some kind of method is being used to block facial analysis. The technician explains that he spoke with someone who met Akagi in person. When that person tried to describe Akagi later, his memory became fuzzy, and he could not clearly recall what he looked like. The image just slipped away from his mind. In another scene, Vox appears and hands Akagi an item called the Scale of Siloam. This item allows someone to avoid leaving any impression, even when showing their face. Cameras cannot capture their features, and people who meet them cannot remember their appearance clearly. Vox created this specifically for Akagi because it would be a problem if he died too soon. He adds that if anyone attempts to uncover Akagi's identity, their struggle will produce excellent despair, which he can savor. Watching Vox speak, Akagi takes the special lenses without hesitation and puts them on. Back in the IT department, the technician nervously informs Fute that they cannot conduct any interviews with people who have seen Flame Demon, and they also cannot analyze him through the footage. No matter what method they use, his image remains untraceable. Hearing this, Fute's mood shifts instantly. The friendly look on his face vanishes, and his hands tighten with visible rage. Without saying a word, he crushes the chairs beside him with his bare hands, snapping the frames like twigs. The poor technician slowly turns around, only to be met with the terrifying sight of Fute's face twisted into something demonic, barely recognizable from the friendly man who walked in just moments earlier. The poor technician stands frozen, shocked and anxious, unable to believe what he just saw. Fute had always smiled, always seemed calm and cheerful, so seeing that terrifying expression shakes him to his core. As Fute composes himself, he calmly tells the technician to keep him updated if anything new turns up. With that, he turns and leaves the room. The technician finally breathes again and turns to speak to his colleague, but before he can say a word, Fute suddenly reappears at the door. His face is still twisted and menacing as he asks if the technician has found something else to report. Panicking, the poor guy quickly returns to his desk, sweating heavily, and stammers that it was just a mistake. Fute stares at him for a moment, then praises him for doing a good job, and finally leaves the room for real. Once outside, Fute steps into his car. Sitting in silence, he activates his magic, using a metamorphosis spell to change his appearance. His face and body shift, revealing his true identity. The man known as Fute is actually Kurogane Yaichi, the real one hiding behind the mask of a holy and friendly man. Inside the car, he issues a quiet order to his subordinate, telling him to use the underground network to begin investigating the one called Flame Demon. On the other hand, Akeji begins explaining to Vox that the term Six Sword Ethics refers to the 6 representatives in the Hunters Guild, each aligned with one of the elemental attributes. He says the abilities of awakened individuals vary widely, but at their core, they fall under 6 elemental categories tied to the earth. Every awakened person gains powers based on one of these attributes. However, those abilities can shift depending on the individual's mindset and desires at the moment of awakening. This phenomenon is known as the mixing of attributes. Vox raises a question, wondering what would happen if someone born with an earth attribute held a deep desire to fly, which goes against their natural alignment. Akeji replies that they are about to find that out very soon. At that moment, he has already cornered a man in an alley. The overweight hunter looks around nervously and asks why he is being followed. Akeji silently turns on the livestream camera and points it directly at him. He introduces him to the viewers as Egawa Choji, an E-rank hunter who publicly claims to collect donations for gate orphans and offers support for their survival. However, Akeji exposes the truth. Most of the funds are spent on Egawa's personal pleasures, while the orphans are forced into unfair labor with little to no care. Egawa yells back in panic, saying the accusations are false, and demands to know if Akagi has any proof. Akagi walks up to Egawa and leans in close, whispering something into his ear that makes him freeze in fear. His expression twists with panic as he backs away, only to see Akagi calmly raise his hand and reveal a handful of burning fire. Before Akagi can do anything further, Egawa quickly activates his advanced water technique, shouting the name Aqua Golem. A massive body of water erupts around him, spreading across the area and forming into a towering water giant that looms over everything nearby. Akeji watches it rise and turns to explain to Vox that Aqua Golem is a technique that allows the user to create a massive water-based giant. However, its true nature is not calm or peaceful. It is rooted in vanity, a desire to appear more powerful, to seem larger than life. That desperation to look strong makes the ability unsettling rather than serene. Akeji calls it a clear example of mismatched awakening, where the user's inner desires do not align with the attribute they were given. Egawa launches a powerful water attack, shouting with confidence that Akeji will regret going against him. He believes his Aqua Golem will crush anything in its path. What he does not realize is that Akeji is the main character of this story. With a calm expression, Akagi unleashes flames strong enough to boil the entire water body. The heat rises quickly, and within seconds, the water starts bubbling violently. Agawa begins to melt inside his own creation, unable to escape the scorching steam. Akagi watches the giant collapse and turns to the camera. He smirks and says Agawa claimed it was his advanced technique, but honestly, it was not even better than a beginner's spell. With that, another corrupt figure falls. Vox consumes the despair in the air and comments that it was a disgusting kind of despair, soaked in fear and shame. Then he asks what Akagi whispered to Agawa before the battle started. Akagi replies that he told him he was once an orphan too, raised alongside Ayumi, and had stayed at Agawa's facility for a while. Vox scoffs and says Agawa was nothing more than a small-time villain. Akagi agrees but says he is different from him. He explains that his fire attribute came from the contract with Vox, along with the ability to grow stronger the more he is flamed, a power he calls pyromanic hairstylist. Vox looks impressed and says that some humans really do not fit into neat categories, no matter how the world tries to label them. Akagi cuts the conversation short and starts heading toward the meeting, which is the result of his rising fame and the attention he has been drawing lately. While walking, he checks his phone and notices a new message on the screen. It is from an anonymous user who says they have something important to discuss about Ayumi and Rika. Akagi looks at his phone and sees that Rika is still working as an Orthodox Gate streamer. He clicks on one of her live videos and notices that her content has changed a little into fan service. Vox asks about the relationship between Ayumi and Rika. Akagi explains that Rika was Ayumi's senior and gave her a lot of support in the beginning. She helped her grow in the Gate world, but she was also the one who recommended solo leveling and directed her to a specific gate where Yechi had been waiting for her. As he scrolls through the chat, Akagi notices a comment from a user claiming to have footage of Rika meeting with semi-criminal groups. The username is Doggy, and it is the same person who contacted him earlier about setting up a meeting. The message lingers in his mind as he continues forward. They arrive at the meeting location and start searching for the one who contacted them. Vox asks if Akagi knows what the person looks like. He wonders if the guy might be the type who hides in the shadows and can recognize a petty villain just by glancing at them. Right then, someone matching that image shows up nearby, walking with a fat companion. The two of them approach a girl wearing a mask and begin teasing her for no reason. Without hesitation, they pull off her mask, revealing a face marked with scars. Their expressions twist in disgust. They call her gross and shove her away before turning around to leave as if she were worthless. As they walk off, Mr. Handsome steps forward and speaks from behind. He asks if they have ever looked at themselves in the mirror and questions who gave them the right to judge someone based on appearances. The bad dudes turn around, clearly irritated, and activate their powers, saying they are already in a bad mood and ready to fight. Sparks fly around them as they prepare to attack. Akagi remains calm and shifts into battle mode, summoning the leftover flames from his last stream. These are not ordinary flames. They do not disappear when the stream ends. Instead, they continue to burn on their own, slowly heating up over time. Although these flames are not as intense as the ones fueled by live viewer rage, they are still more than enough to handle guys like this. As the two attackers rush at him, Akagi focuses his energy and blasts them with a wave of flame, throwing it forward like a kamehameha. The fire spreads across their bodies, igniting small patches that cause them to panic and stumble back. With smoke rising from their clothes, Akagi casually asks which one of them is Doggy. Both of them look confused and shake their heads, clearly having no idea who he is talking about. Before he can say more, the girl they were harassing steps forward and says that she is the one he is looking for, Doggy. They enter a quiet meeting room, and the girl begins to speak. She introduces herself as Reika's assistant, the one responsible for handling her schedules, organizing her content, and managing everything behind the scenes. She recounts how, one day, she overheard Reika having a conversation with Yaichi. Curious, she stayed hidden and listened in. That was when she realized they were discussing Ayumi. The moment left her shaken, but fear kept her from speaking up. Not knowing what else to do, she started spamming the comment sections during live streams, hoping someone would catch on. Akagi listens carefully, finally connecting the pieces. He realizes now that Reika is directly involved. He asks if she is still in contact with Reika. The girl nods and says they are, but something feels wrong. The way Reika talks now is different, and things between them do not seem as stable as before. She recalls the moment she secretly listened in on Reika and Yaichi's conversation. Reika was furious, yelling at him for hiding and doing nothing while the flame demon continued taking revenge for Ayumi. Fear laced her voice as she worried that everything might come back to her, but Yaichi showed no concern. He coldly replied that she was the one who murdered Ayumi. Reika quickly tried to defend herself, saying she only asked him to teach Ayumi a lesson, but Yaichi cut her off and told her to explain that to Flame Demon and ask for his forgiveness instead. His words made her even more furious. She shouted that she had resorted to live streaming with her uncovered body just to earn money, only to have most of it taken from her by others. Before she could say more, Yaichi interrupted again and casually offered to escort her back. As they began to walk, his men moved in around her, surrounding her with smirks and suggestive remarks. Without hesitation, she unleashed a sudden attack, striking one of them in the ear and sending the rest stumbling back. The blast was strong enough to punch a hole in the wall. She stood firm and corrected their assumption. She made it clear that she had not come there to beg or ask for favors. She had not snuck down to the lower level for their help. She was there to complain, nothing more, and she had no intention of relying on people like them. After explaining everything to Akagi, she lowers her head and admits that she regrets not being able to help Ayumi back then. Her voice shakes as she says that this time she made sure to do something, to take revenge for her. When she finally looks up, she freezes. Akagi is standing there, his eyes wide and his mouth curved into a grin that grows with every second. The joy on his face is unsettling, not because of relief, but because of the fire building inside him. Now that he knows the truth about his sister's betrayal and those who planned it, he is ready to burn them all to ashes. Akagi asks how he can meet Reika, which catches her off guard. She looks at him, confused, and asks why he wants to meet her. After a pause, she explains that Reika used to do live streaming, but after an incident left her face scarred, she stopped. Back when she was at her lowest, it was Reika who took her in. She knows Reika isn't exactly a good person, but she's also her benefactor, and that matters to her. Akagi then asks why she's telling him all this when she knows it could put Reika in danger. Tears start to form in her eyes. Her voice trembles as she blurts out that she told him because otherwise he might have ended up in danger. She says she doesn't want anyone else to die during these horrible times, whether they're good people or bad ones. But Akagi cuts her off. He says Ayumi died like an insect, and turning a blind eye to that isn't kindness, but it's weakness. His words are sharp, but his resolve is even sharper. After seeing how serious he is, she finally tells him where to find Reika. She checked her schedule and says Reika will be at the live house called Ark in the Eastern Abandoned District. Akagi thanks her for the information, then adds with a chilling smile that if Reika apologizes for everything she did, he might consider sparing her life. The abandoned district is the area contaminated by the gate disaster, soaked with dark energy, toxins, and evil. No normal human can survive here because only awakened ones with resistance to monster toxins can walk through this place. Akagi steps into the district, and Vox wonders if they should really be trusting Doggy. Akagi doesn't know either, but instead focuses on finding the truth once he reaches the building called Ark. The moment he pushes open the door, a group of gangsters lying in wait charges straight at him, ready to crush him on the spot. Up on the second floor, Rika and Doggy are watching. Rika finally lays eyes on the infamous Flame Demon and seems amused that he actually came alone. Doggy looks shocked and demands to know who those guys are. Rika explains that when people first awakened to their abilities, society had already collapsed into chaos and some of them snapped. They went wild to vent their anger. But once order started to return, those same people lost their place and ended up hiding in dark corners like this abandoned district. Despite all that, Doggy starts to suspect that Rika knew Flame Demon would show up here. She casually admits it and even thanks Doggy for being stupid enough to show what was on her mind. Looking pleased, she says she is ready to erase all the evidence of Ayumi's murder along with Flame Demon himself. Once he is dead, all that will be left is his body. Suddenly, lava bursts through the hallway, scorching everything in its path. Rika steps back in shock, trying to figure out who could unleash that kind of firepower. Then, Akagi appears, walking through the smoke with his camera raised. He's already streaming live, and his voice echoes loud and clear as he reveals to the world that Rika was the mastermind behind Ayumi's death. Rika scrambles to check her phone, confused about how her voice is being broadcast. Doggy steps up and points to the speakers she planted earlier. She explains that Akagi gave them to her and said he'd spare Rika if she showed even the slightest regret for Ayumi's death. Doggy says she took them because she hoped Rika still had some guilt left in her heart, but Rika snaps. Furious, she forms a beautiful sword from flowing water and dashes toward Akagi to finish him off. Meanwhile, he stands firm and declares that Rika is the one responsible for killing Ayumi. Using an ability similar to Noelle from Black Clover, Rika activates her advanced technique, Fencer of Aqua. Akeji has seen her streams and knows she favors close-range combat, so he expects her to follow the same pattern. Ready for it, he plans to shoot fire the moment she takes to the air. When she jumps in, he throws a burst of flames straight at her, but she vanishes and suddenly reappears on his right side. She lunges at him, aiming to strike with her water blade, but he manages to dodge just in time. She doesn't let up and keeps swinging at him, trying to land a hit, while he continues dodging with sharp, agile movements. After a short back and forth, she pauses and notes that he's surprisingly calm, then asks how he managed to predict her sneak attack. He responds without hesitation, saying she's a B-rank hunter, so moves like that are only natural coming from someone of her level. Hunters are ranked from A to F, with those in the higher ranks possessing supernatural abilities. They serve as humanity's frontline defense, relying on both strength and numbers. Rika, being a veteran streamer, isn't the type to panic just because someone calls her out. Her earlier reaction was staged to throw him off and make it seem like she was about to fight recklessly. She's impressed by how well he figured her out, but she only gives him 50 points for the effort. Then she shifts her sword into a more elaborate design and twirls it to fill the area with swirling water. As he tries to analyze what's going on, she suddenly appears behind him and slams her sword into him, sending him flying. He manages to brace himself by digging into the ground. Vox remarks that she's one dangerous girl. Akeji agrees and explains that she knows exactly how to handle being flamed online. The worst thing someone can do when getting flamed is try to put out the fire themselves. If you make excuses, you're accused of avoiding responsibility. If you get mad, they clip it and use it against you. If you cry, they say you're just playing the victim. But if you stay calm and don't react, there's nothing they can do, and the flames eventually die out. Vox watches quietly and comments that humans are truly inconvenient creatures. When one person gets angry, their momentum fades as long as the other stays calm. It frustrates people more than anything else. Rika steps forward with two swords in hand and asks what is going on with him. She points out that his flames seem to be weakening, but Akeji does not react to her taunt. Instead, he stays low and moves into a stance similar to Spider-Man, placing his hand on the ground. In that moment, he activates Purgatory, sending heat surging through the area and setting his surroundings ablaze. Rika assumes he is preparing an omnidirectional attack and rushes in to strike, calling it a pointless move. Just as she appears behind him for a surprise blow, she suddenly stops. A wave of thick steam builds up behind him, making it hard to breathe and move. Akeji stands calmly at the center of it all and welcomes her to his pride and joy, the ultimate sauna. He explains that in a real sauna, pouring water on the stone does not make the room hotter in temperature, but it allows heat to transfer into the skin more effectively through the rising vapor. He tells her that she is now facing a heat barrier. If she steps into sword range, her skin will start to burn. He notices her face change slightly, just enough to reveal doubt and hesitation. With that small crack in her composure, the viewers watching begin to shift their tone. Comments pour in accusing her of being evil from the beginning. They curse her for what she did to Ayumi, and say she deserves to be burned alive. The flood of anger reignites Akagi's power, and his body becomes surrounded by blazing flames. Now fully charged, he stands tall with heat radiating from every inch of him. His flames roar louder, and with the viewers behind him, he rises like a Super Saiyan, burning brighter than ever before. As the viewers flood the chat with support, urging Akeji to finish her off, he prepares to end the fight with a single blow by engulfing her in intense heat. But just as he's about to move, Rika calls out to him and offers a deal. She says she knows the identity of the true mastermind behind Ayumi's murder and insists she was set up as well. She deactivates her ability, and her swords disappear, making it look like she's surrendering. For a moment, everything goes still, but it turns out to be a bluff. While the chat is blowing up with demands to burn her, one strange user drops a surprising comment. They claim Rika's close combat fighting style is just for show during streams, and only veteran viewers know she is actually a mid to long range attacker. Akeji processes this just as Rika drops the act. She quickly casts a basic water technique and blasts a surge of water forward, forcing him back. In that instant, he realizes this is the same move she uses to reposition herself behind her opponents. Without wasting time, she activates another advanced ability. Several floating water guns materialize around her and begin firing streams of water at high pressure. She smirks and says that suppression fire and sniping are powerful tools, even if they don't look flashy during streams. That's why she keeps them hidden and uses them only for self-defense. She adds that when she awakened, she wished for the power to pierce through. Her words are sharp as she continues firing, and water bullets cut through the air. Akagi dodges them with speed and focus, reading each pattern. Vox chuckles and says she has pulled out an unexpected trump card. Akagi replies that these water guns may look cool, but they don't have the speed of real bullets, and he can dodge them all. Rika smirks and says that shooting from the front isn't her only move. In one quick motion, she leaps forward for her usual attack pattern. Akagi immediately activates Purgatory, turning the area into a scorching sauna. But this time, Rika doesn't stop. She pushes through the heat and vanishes into the building, disappearing among the many corners and hiding spots inside. Akagi waits, scanning the room, but she's already gone. Vox speaks up, asking if he knows the difference between him and Rika. He says it's not just strength or power, but it's skills. Skills can take many forms once awakened, shaped by the user's emotions and desires. Vox admits that Akagi is skillful and creative with his fire, but right now, he doesn't match up to her in that department. Then Vox shares some news. He tells Akagi that fire doesn't govern only destruction. It also holds the power of creation. There is a hidden aspect to his ability. When he defeats a powerful awakened opponent, he can absorb one of their signature skills. In Rika's case, if he brings her down, he may gain access to her powers. Akagi processes the idea and says with a sarcastic tone that if he beats Rika, he'll get the exact skill he needed to beat her in the first place. Vox sighs and says he might be dumber than he thought. He reminds him that he has already reduced a high-ranking hunter to ashes. Akagi stops and begins to think back, piecing together who that could be. Meanwhile, Rika finishes setting up her trap. She gathers all her water guns into one concentrated point, waiting for Akagi to walk into her line of fire. She watches his live stream closely, and to her surprise, he actually starts coming down toward her. The moment he steps into the hall, she bursts through the door and fires off a water blast, fully confident that this will end it. But as the attack hits, nothing happens. Standing there calmly, Akagi now holds a burning scythe in his hand. The water slides off his body harmlessly. Rika stares in disbelief as he stands in front of her, surrounded by heat, and activating his new skill, Levy Ablaze. Skills are abilities that people gain when they awaken or grow stronger over time. Their nature and performance depend on the person's elemental attribute and the desires they carry. Skills are typically divided into 3 categories: basic, intermediate, and advanced. The higher the level, the more powerful the skill. Most hunters are desperate to obtain advanced skills, but the general rule is that only high-ranked individuals with natural talent can manifest them. However, those rules do not apply to Vox. Through his power, he can shape skills freely, even creating advanced ones like Aeronis for Akagi. Standing confidently, Akagi swirls his burning scythe through the air and shows off his newly acquired skill. Rika stares at him in shock. She has only seen advanced skills in top-tier hunters, and they are usually the privilege of the most gifted. Yet this unknown man in front of her holds one with ease. Watching his movements, she notices something else. He fights with experience, and his control tells her he is no amateur. A hunter like this should have a reputation, but she has never heard of this skill before. Then something clicks. His stance, the way he moves, there is a faint resemblance to Ayumi's advanced technique, Harvest of Stella. Her heart starts to race, and she asks what his connection is to Ayumi. Akagi looks at her coldly and says she does not need to know. If she learns the truth, it will not bring Ayumi back or make her smile again. That time has passed. Now she just needs to burn into ashes and disappear. Standing on a pool of lava, he spins his scythe, fire blazing with every motion as he advances toward her. Rika begins to panic, her breath shaky. Deep down, she cannot believe this is how it ends. As her mind races, memories flash through her eyes. She questions if she really did something so wrong. There are people far worse. She remembers how much she suffered, how hard she fought to climb up. Every time she rose, someone below dragged her down. And when she finally made it to the top by stepping on others, those above her used and discarded her anyway. Still, she never gave up. She told herself her turn would come. In desperation, she unleashes a flurry of water attacks, but Akagi blocks them all with his lava-infused scythe. As he closes the distance, he raises the blade and strikes her down. His voice is calm but sharp as he says her turn will never come. That chance ended a long time ago. Her body is consumed in flames, and in moments she turns to ashes. After such a fierce battle, Vox notices something odd. He realizes Rika is still alive and asks Akagi if he purposely let her live. Akagi nods and explains that with her veteran instincts and the advantage of a water attribute against fire, it makes sense that she did not die right away. But he adds that she will suffer while alive, and that is part of the punishment. Barely breathing, Rika stammers and calls out to Doggy, begging her to stop hiding and come help. Without hesitation, Doggy reveals herself with a bold entrance. Rika quickly plays the card of manipulation, reminding her that she was the one who picked her up when everyone else abandoned her. She helped her survive, gave her purpose, and if she dies now, Doggy will be left alone in a cruel world. But Akagi steps in before she can twist things further. He turns to Doggy and explains that he already looked into her background. Holding a paper in his hand, he reveals what he found. Her real name is Ichiko, though he chooses to keep that private and refers to her by her handle Doggy. She once competed in a contest where a tragic incident left her scared. After that, she disappeared from public life. Moreover, her story mirrors that of Ayumi and Rika, the cycle where rookies get crushed, then saved by those who once crushed others. Rika snaps at him, denying everything. She demands proof and insists he cannot draw such a conclusion from speculation. Her confidence is loud, based on the fact that she erased all traces of her involvement and has kept Doggy under control, believing she would never betray her. In truth, Rika intends to use Doggy as a shield and escape, only to return again when the dust settles. But Akagi has already seen through it. Doggy spills the truth and says she always suspected Rika was behind her injuries. Her sense of smell is sharper than anyone else's, and back when the accident happened, she caught a faint scent of Rika at the scene. Akagi asks why she never went to the police. She admits that just her words wouldn't be taken as real evidence, and in the end, she was a coward. If she had spoken up instead of making excuses, maybe Ayumi would still be alive. As she confesses this, she breaks down in tears. Rika screams at her to stop playing the victim and insists they are both guilty. Doggy agrees and gets down on her knees in front of Akagi, begging him to bring everything to an end now. Rika loses it, yelling that if Doggy wants to die, then fine, she should go ahead and die alone instead of dragging her down with her. She tells her to look in the mirror and remember the debt she owes for being rescued and supported. Before she can go on, Akagi steps forward and rests his lava-coated scythe against her stomach. Then he slowly sets her body ablaze, putting her through a painful end. While she writhes in agony, Vox happily devours the despair pouring out of her. With that, Akagi calmly shuts off his stream for the day. Approaching Doggy, he reminds her of what she once said, that even bad people should not die if possible. He tells her she was right. That belief was never a sign of her weakness. It was his. After being hurt and losing everything, she still endured the humiliation of staying under Rika's control and tried to save Ayumi in her own way. She says she does not have anyone left in this life, but he gently corrects her. She is not alone anymore. She has someone like him who truly cares and wishes for her to live and be happy. Hearing those words, she breaks down crying, overwhelmed. After a moment, he quietly turns around and leaves. While walking away, Vox asks if he was projecting his sister onto her. Instead of answering, he wonders aloud whether she will even be able to remember him because of the scale of Salome. He questions if she will still remember that someone is out there hoping for her happiness. Vox takes a moment and admits he does not know the answer. What he does not realize, though, is that Doggy is a B-rank hunter with a skill called Beast Syndrome. It allows her to gain the physical traits of canine predators by partially transforming her body, and one side effect is that her entire constitution becomes more dog-like. According to research, dogs remember people and emotions by scent more than by sight. There are feelings and bonds far stronger than what vision alone can hold. Vox asks him what kind of information he was hoping to get from Reika. Akagi replies that he ended up killing her in the heat of the moment because he chose to do so. Suddenly, an alarm blares throughout the city, warning the public that a hostile organism has escaped from the gate, and people nearby are urged to evacuate calmly. Vox sighs and comments that the human world is always so noisy, suggesting they lead the matter to the Hunters Guild. But Akagi takes off running toward the danger without hesitation. He says there is a restaurant nearby that Ayumi used to love, and he refuses to let monsters trample over the memories they made there. Watching him run off, Vox stays behind and stares after him. He cannot fully understand Akagi's motives, but something about it makes him feel like things are about to get interesting. Ayumi and Akagi are both sitting in the small restaurant. He asks her if it was really okay to come here to celebrate her birthday, and she smiles, saying she likes the food they serve. Deep down, Akagi feels a twinge of guilt, thinking that if he had been a little more responsible, maybe they could have celebrated her birthday somewhere nicer. Suddenly, the lights go out, and the grandpa who runs the place walks in, holding a beautiful birthday cake just for her. Akagi immediately gets flustered and explains that they didn't order a cake or anything, but the grandpa laughs and says it is simply a token of thanks for Ayumi, since she always brightens up the place whenever she visits. As the grandpa walks past them, he tells them he is rooting for them. Ayumi turns to her brother and asks if coming here was the right choice, and he agrees with a bright smile, one that will never be seen again. Right now, he is sprinting toward that same restaurant, hoping the gate leakage is not happening there. People used to believe that monsters only came out of the gates when the messengers descended and blew their trumpets. However, later discoveries revealed that monsters can leap from a gate when certain conditions are met. Kind-hearted people use this knowledge to help prevent accidental monster leaks and assist in gate research, while corrupt individuals abused it. For instance, a prisoner once escaped from jail and ran into a gate. The police surrounded the area and warned him to come out, but instead he pushed the monsters toward the officers and used the chaos to flee. Akagi keeps running and clearing the path of monsters until he reaches the front of the restaurant. Once he gets there, he sees a sign that says it is closed until further notice. Vox shows up and starts teasing him, asking how long until further notice is supposed to be. Akagi shuts him up and does not let him continue talking. Vox explains that these flames belong to Akagi and he can use them however he wants. Still, if he goes too wild, he will draw attention. Akagi reassures him that his fire attack will not stand out because someone else is already using a large-scale fire attack at the same time. That someone is Himuro from the Hunters Guild, and a ranked hunter who shows up with an overwhelming presence. He uses his flames to wipe out the surrounding monsters, which makes the crowd cheer and pull out their phones to film him. Covered in a fiery aura, Himuro takes his stance and activates his intermediate technique, Fist Agnes. He starts throwing powerful punches at every monster he sees, but they do not seem to go down right away. One guy in the crowd asks why his attacks are not working, and another responds that the true strength of that move comes from the follow-up. Sure enough, when a monster tries to attack Himuro, he simply swings his arm, and the monster he hit earlier erupts into flames. Smiling brightly, Himuro declares that he will protect the town. Vox admits that Himuro is strong, but says he is not his type because his shiny flames give him heartburn. Akagi agrees and decides to retreat before crossing paths with him and stirring up trouble. On the way out, they spot a girl being cornered by a monster, and she is just moments away from being turned into dinner. Vox suggests Akagi tell the monster to leave, but instead, Akagi jumps in and lands a flaming punch, blasting the creature into ashes. As he lands, he sees that Himuro is already there, striking a pose. Vox casually walks over and says he was about to mention that Himuro would have saved the girl anyway. While the monster burns to ashes, the girl takes the chance to run away, and the two boys are left staring at each other. Akagi starts to panic because he really does not want to deal with Himuro right now. His fight with Rika already left him drained, and Himuro is one of the top-tier fire users. But then he remembers that thanks to his special lens, most people cannot recognize him as Flame Demon. So he quickly puts on an act, pretending to be just another civilian. He walks up and casually asks if he is really Himuro from the Six Sword Ethics, saying he never expected to run into him like this. To his shock, Himuro recognizes him anyway and calls him out as Flame Demon. Akagi is stunned and wonders how he figured it out. Himuro explains that he is not like Rukawa, who uses divination. Instead, he reads people based on their character and the way their background shapes their abilities. To him, the flame Akagi used has the same nature and essence as the one Flame Demon uses, so he is sure it is him. Akagi gets startled and takes a step back, warning that he is not going down without a fight. But Himuro raises his hand and calmly tells him he is not here to capture him. He just wants to talk. That completely throws Akagi off. The next thing he knows, they are sitting on a bench at a nearby park, and Himuro hands him a canned drink as a thank you for protecting the town. He admits it is not much, but reminds Akagi he is still just a high schooler, even though he works as one of the Six Sword Ethics. His monthly allowance is only 4,000. Akagi takes it without complaint and asks if it is really okay for someone like him to be casually chatting with a known criminal. Himuro admits that if his leader found out, he would be in serious trouble, so they better keep it quiet. He then shifts the topic and shares that the monster leakage incident was not an attack. It turned out to be an accident during a contest. All the monsters were wiped out and thankfully, there were 0 casualties. Hearing that, Akagi nods with relief, saying that is the kind of news he wanted to hear. Himuro watches him and says that confirms it. Akagi is not a bad person, not in the way people say. He even admits he knows about Akagi's revenge mission for Ayumi, and that all of his targets were actual criminals. Some were even ones the guild failed to punish. Akagi's actions, though violent, pushed the guild into taking a deeper look, and more criminals are being exposed now. The guy in the info room was even shocked. Himuro adds that murder is wrong, no doubt about it, but when he looks at the bigger picture, he cannot bring himself to see Akagi as evil. In fact, if they keep talking like this, they might just end up as friends. Akagi grins and accepts the thought, listening to Himuro go on like some old friend catching up after a long time apart. Akagi starts to feel something warm inside and wonders when was the last time he had a normal conversation like this. For a moment, it feels like things could actually be okay, but then, Himuro suddenly stands up in front of him with a serious expression. He asks if Akagi plans to stop his revenge, now that the guild is working hard to track down the real criminal. He says he won't dig into Akagi's connection to Ayumi, but he is sure she wouldn't have wanted him to become a criminal. If he keeps going like this, he could end up losing everything too. Akagi looks at him and simply says that Himuro is a good lad, and that's exactly why it's unfortunate. Himuro blinks, unsure what he means, but before he can ask, He gets a summoning call from the guild. He quickly waves and says they will talk again next time. As he rushes off, Akagi watches him go and quietly says that yeah, they definitely will meet sooner than he thinks when he reaches the town. Akagi sees people running around in a panic. He grabs one person and asks what's going on, and they tell him that the monster from earlier was released by Flame Demon. That rumor has already spread, and people are freaking out, convinced that Flame Demon is nearby and could attack at any moment. They start yelling that they need to evacuate before something worse happens. Himuru steps in and tries to calm them down, saying there's no solid proof that Flame Demon was behind the gate breach. But as soon as he says that, the crowd turns on him. They stare at him suspiciously and start accusing him of defending a criminal. Some even say he is siding with Flame Demon just because they share the same fire attribute. Himuru tries to explain, but his words fall flat. Then, Akagi appears in full criminal mode, wearing his usual getup and acting like he owns the place. He calmly introduces himself as Flame Demon. Everyone glares at him and demands to know if he caused the monster attack. He smiles and asks if they would believe him even if he denied it. Himuru starts to get anxious, wondering if Akagi is doing this to protect him. Meanwhile, Akagi is racking up hate in his livestream chat, which is exactly what he wants. He does not care whether people are right or wrong about him. He suddenly flings a fire attack toward the crowd, causing everyone to scatter in fear. Himuru reacts quickly and uses his basic fire technique to block the flames with a shield. Akagi looks at him and says they live in different worlds, and nothing can stop what's coming. Himuru realizes what he means and says he has people he needs to protect. The viewers start turning against Akagi and cheering for Himuru. With no turning back, Himuru activates his intermediate combat skill while Akagi lights up with Levy of Blaze. The two stand face to face, and Akagi says this is how things are supposed to be. This is the right place for both of them. Both fire attribute users face off, and the air around them starts to heat up from the tension. Himuru asks if Akagi really won't surrender, but Akagi tells him again that he cannot stop, not now. Hearing that, Himuru steps forward with resolve and declares that Akagi is now officially his enemy. He lunges in and throws a blazing punch, but Akagi blocks it with his lava-charged scythe and manages to push him back. Himuru steadies himself and admits he is impressed by Akagi's fierce and honest flames, though he still questions why he is so chained to revenge. Akagi twirls his scythe and flings a wave of fire at him, saying that his fire was born for the sake of revenge and nothing else. Up in the crowd, someone starts to worry about Himuru's safety, but another guy reassures him that Himuru's hand made contact with Akagi's weapon, which means the next hit will be a follow-up strike, and it's going to be deadly. However, what they do not know is that Akagi already understands how that technique works. He knows that before the follow-up connects, there is a brief window. If someone closes the distance during that moment, it can backfire on the user. Right when Himuru prepares to shout the command for his finishing move, Akagi reacts first. He throws his lava scythe straight at him, aiming directly for that moment of vulnerability. Himuru panics because once this attack is activated, it cannot be called off. He cannot dodge either, or the blast will hit innocent people nearby, and he also cannot cancel the skill, or Akagi will strike through that hesitation. He is cornered, and the next move will decide everything. With firm determination, Himuru takes the scythe hit head-on and launches himself into the air, where he immediately commands his next follow-up attack. A surge of fire erupts in the sky as he prepares to strike. Down below, Akagi glances upward, puzzled about why Himuru would fly up like that. But before he can figure it out, Himuru appears right in front of him and throws a punch. Akagi narrowly dodges it by tilting his body, though his cloak gets ripped in the process. Before he can recover, Himuru goes in for another punch. This time, Akagi raises his flames to defend himself and absorbs the blow, but the force still pushes him back a few steps. Himuru notices that Akagi managed to cancel his follow-up attack using his own fire, yet he also sees that Akagi is breathing heavily. It makes sense, considering the intense battle he had earlier with Reika. Himuru urges him to surrender, pointing out that he is clearly worn down and can't keep going much longer. But instead of backing down, Akagi cracks a wicked Joker-like grin. He mocks Himuru for being soft, and warns him that he is going to crush his insides with his fist and then burn him to ashes. Hearing that, Himuru charges forward with all his might and lands a punch straight into Akagi's chest, sending him flying back. He calls out his final follow-up attack, preparing to end it for real this time. However, he sees something unexpected, that Akagi is smiling through the pain, making no effort to dodge or defend. He takes the full hit head-on, and the explosion of fire erupts around them, leaving Himuru in shock with that fiery explosion. The live stream cuts off, leaving the online viewers stunned and wondering what just happened. The chat floods with confusion, theories, and panic. However, Himuru notices something strange on the ground, a can lying nearby, slightly dented and steaming. He realizes that Akagi used it as a decoy and switched places at the last second. Akagi managed to escape just in time, using the can as a decoy to take the brunt of the hit. Hidden under his coat, it absorbed the impact from Himuru's punch, reducing what could have been a serious injury to something manageable. While hiding out, Akagi admits he's impressed by Himuru's strength. His bare fists, even without using advanced skills, hit like trucks. But Akagi feels satisfied because his plan worked. He deliberately drew Himuru's punch to his stomach, where the can was stashed, and made his escape while fooling both the viewers and Himuru. Vox comments that killing Himuru would have earned him even more hate online, something that could have helped his image as Flame Demon. But Akagi waves that off. He tells Vox not to talk so lightly about that. Himuru didn't even go all out. He avoided using advanced techniques because his priority was protecting the town, not winning. That is why Akagi does not want to kill someone as sincere and decent as him just for revenge. Vox clicks his tongue in disappointment and calls it boring. Meanwhile, Himuru sits alone on a stairway in a quiet alley, thinking back to the moment they clashed. He felt something in Akagi's flames, a potential that could become something greater. He wonders if next time, one of them will be the one to fall. Just then, Fude shows up, out of breath, and apologizes for arriving late because he had been at a publishing company. Now that the chaos has settled, he asks Himuru to fill him in on what happened. Himuru calmly explains everything that happened during the battle and the conversation he shared with Akagi. After trading blows with him, he does not believe Akagi is truly evil. Fute nods and says that Himuru has always been a straightforward guy, so if he's saying this, it must be true. He smiles and casually declares that they should protect villains. As he rests one hand on Himuru's shoulder, he suddenly modifies his other arm. Without warning, he punches Himuru with that mechanical limb and sends him crashing into the wall behind them. His form begins to shift, and Fute transforms back into his original appearance, Yechi. With a sly grin, he confesses that he has always wanted Flame Demon to be seen as a villain, which is why he orchestrated the monster leak. However, since there were no casualties, the incident was too clean, too boring. He says it's all Himuru's fault for trying to keep things righteous and neat. In his eyes, the only interesting thing about Himuru is how he pretends to be righteous while getting in the way, turning away. Yechi mutters that Flame Demon might not have gotten far, so he intends to track him down. But before he can move, Himuru gets back on his feet. With flames gathering in his fist, he charges in and slams his burning punch into Yechi, who blocks it with his arm. Their eyes lock, and that's when Himuru realizes the truth that this man is the one responsible for Ayumi's death. Himuru lunges forward and throws another punch, demanding to know where Fute is. Yechi blocks the hit and calmly tells him there is no Fute, because he has been Fute all along. The popular author, the trusted member of the 6 ethics swords that was just a disguise. Himuru steps back in shock, struggling to process the truth. He cannot believe he was working so closely with a criminal. The thought makes his stomach twist, and he mutters that he is in no position to face Flame Demon now. Yechi looks at him with complete confidence and says it does not matter anyway. Himuru is not leaving this place alive, but Himuru tightens his fists, reigniting his resolve. He charges again and starts punching Yechi's gut in rapid bursts. Yechi weaves through most of them with sharp reflexes, until Himuru suddenly switches to a spinning kick that connects with his face. Himuru can tell from every hit that Yechi's body is tough and built for combat, but he has already targeted key spots. With fire burning in his hands, he activates his follow-up attack and sets Yechi's body ablaze. For a second, he thinks it's over. Then Yechi steps forward from within the flames, completely unfazed, and tells him that fire does not work on him. Elsewhere, Akagi stares at a building swallowed by flames, and Himuru flashes through his mind. Vox suddenly warns him to brace himself. Akagi immediately feels a chilling aura wrap around him, and the next second, angry voices flood his ears. He checks his phone and sees Himuru's face in a breaking news update. The report says he was found paralyzed in an alley due to cardiac arrest. The public is outraged. Many claim they saw Flame Demon in the area and accuse him of staging a sneak attack after pretending to retreat. Akagi grips his phone tightly. Something about all of this feels too familiar, just like Ayumi's case. He starts connecting the dots, and every piece of the puzzle points to the same name 8 minutes before the news spread across the globe. Yechi ordered his underlings to bring some civilians to the scene of the crime. When they arrive, their faces turn pale at the sight of Yechi, the one responsible for Ayumi's death. Even worse, they see Himuru's body on the ground. He had been the sunshine boy to many, and now he was dead. Yechi commands them to tell the world that Flame Demon is the one who killed him. One woman panics and tries to flee, but Yachi instantly appears in front of her and grabs her head. Without hesitation, he activates his advanced technique, metamorphosis, and her body begins to melt, oozing down like wet sand. She dissolves into a pile of slime, right in front of everyone. Horrified by what they just witnessed, the rest of the civilians freeze in fear. Yachi calmly threatens them to obey or suffer the same fate. Terrified, they pull out their phones and start snapping pictures of Himru's body, posting everywhere that Flame Demon is the murderer and that they saw it happen with their own eyes. One woman stands frozen, struggling with her conscience. She does not want to lie or ruin someone's life, but the man next to her urges her to go through with it. It is the only way they will survive this. They all keep repeating that help will come, that someone will save them if they just stall for long enough. The woman quietly says that Shiramin will come, but the man corrects her. Shiramin is currently clearing a difficult gate, and there is no guarantee he will show up in time. Just then, one of the underlings suddenly hits the man from behind and sends him crashing to the ground. The woman stares in shock as he turns toward her, and she demands to know why they're doing this when she's been following their orders. The underling smirks and says that when he gets annoyed, he starts hitting people. He raises his arm to strike her, but before he can make contact, a wave of fire bursts through the air. Flame Demon appears with burning flames swirling around him, and he launches an attack that knocks the underlings out in one shot. The man on the ground looks up with wide, disbelieving eyes and calls out his name. The woman, realizing who he is, immediately turns on him and blames him for the nightmare they're in. Flame Demon ignores the accusations and asks where Yachi is. The man, still shaken, points in the other direction and says that Yachi went that way to change his clothes. At that moment, Akagi's eyes fall on Himru's body, and a heavy sadness sinks into his chest. He tells the civilians to take care of him and then sprints in the direction the man pointed. Vox, following closely, asks why he's going after Yachi now. Akagi responds firmly, saying that Himuru is one of the strongest people he knows and couldn't have been taken down that easily. Besides, the scars on his face look exactly like Ayumi's, and he knows no one but Yachi could have done it. Vox tries to reason with him, reminding him that Yachi is stronger than Himuru, and even he barely managed to escape from him. But Akagi already knows that. He just cannot stand still when someone like Yachi is still walking free. Fueled by determination, he charges ahead. Meanwhile, Yachi strolls through the quiet streets, annoyed that Himuru resisted more than he expected. The delay made him lose track of Flame Demon, and his outfit is now a mess. Unaware that Akagi is closing in, he keeps walking, while Akagi races through the streets looking for him. Akagi knows Yachi is close and gets ready for a direct showdown. On the other hand, Yachi assumes Akagi already ran off, and because of the Shilon lens, he still has no clue what Flame Demon even looks like. As they both reach the end of the street, they come face to face. For a split second, it seems like Akagi has the upper hand, catching Yachi off guard with the perfect chance to strike first. But out of nowhere, Yachi lands the first punch and mutters that he got irritated and hit him. He adds that he'll toss the corpse into the furnace later. However, Asagi isn't done. He blocks the punch with his arm, grips Yachi's wrist tightly, and activates his skill, Flame Tempest. Flames explode around him as he tells Yachi he's going to burn him until nothing's left but a crispy corpse. Vox watches, thinking the fight is over. Akagi looks confident too, but then Yachi suddenly grabs Akagi by the head and slams him into the ground with brutal force. He says he already told Himuru that fire doesn't work on him. Akagi tries to fight back, but he's pinned and can't shake free. Yachi lifts him up again and hurls him straight into the wall like he weighs nothing. Akagi coughs up blood from the blow and wonders why his flames are useless. Vox tells him not to let appearances fool him and explains that Yachi is not just some brute. Yachi confirms it himself, revealing that no flame can burn him because he coats his body in porous calcium, similar to the heat-resistant tiles used on space shuttles. He mentions having plenty of enemies, and though he does not remember Akagi, he's heard that no one can recall the face of the Flame Demon after seeing him. With a grim look, he asks Akagi if he really is a Flame Demon. Akagi turns to Vox and asks if the fire is still burning around him. Vox replies that Himru's image is still being streamed all over the world. Hearing this, Akagi forces himself to stand and declares that the fight is not over yet, which stuns Vox. Vox questions if the heat has fried his brain and tries to make him understand that fire is useless now, and his identity has already been revealed. But Akagi insists the fire will work. He says if the blade sinks in and the heat reaches deep enough, it can still burn. He summons his scythe, and Yachi recognizes it, saying Ayumi had one that looked just like it. He mocks Akagi, calling his skills trash. Akagi tells him to shut up and stop spouting garbage, then swings his scythe around with force. Yachi dodges and leaps into the air, announcing that he reinforced his leg to crush Akagi with a powerful stomp. However, Akagi is not out of tricks. He pulls out a hidden move, inspired by Rika's technique Musket Ad Cascade, and unleashes it in his own version to shoot flames directly at Yachi and burn him down. Akagi's version of the guns carries the fire attribute instead of water, designed to shoot high-penetration flames from blazing muzzles. But when he tries to fire, nothing comes out, which completely stuns him. Vox reminds him that he already warned him he was at his limit, and no matter how much energy he pours into the fire, he cannot shoot anymore. Just then, Yachi launches his next move, kicking toward him with the force of a rocket launching off the moon. Yet when the dust settles, he sees Akagi has narrowly pulled back to dodge the attack. Yachi starts taunting him, calling him a cowardly avenger who can barely leak fire at best. He approaches and grabs him by the collar, mocking that someone like Akagi will never be able to kill him. Right now, he has no allies, and the entire world sees him as the Flame Demon and treats him like a threat. As long as he lives under that name, he will be powerless, isolated, and chased until death finally catches him. Or, Yachi offers, he can throw away this revenge and live as a beaten dog. Akagi doesn't back down and declares that he will chase Yachi anywhere, as long as his limbs can still move. Yachi hates the look in his eyes and decides to crush his eyeballs next. But what he fails to realize is that Akagi has one ally he didn't count on. Right then, our adorable doggy appears behind them and activates her advanced technique, Beast Syndrome. Her high-pitched scream echoes through the air, irritating Yachi so much that he lets go of Akagi's collar and covers his ears in pain. Seizing the moment, Doggy jumps down and lands a solid, satisfying kick that sends Yachi flying. Akagi is stunned to see her arrive just in time to help him. She quickly apologizes for acting on her own, explaining that she could smell his blood burning and rushed in to protect him. He told her once that he wanted her to live and be happy, and since he's the only one who's ever said that to her, there's no way she's letting him die now. Akagi is stunned, seeing someone transform into a semi-dog form for the first time. Vox explains that this is a beast transformation skill called Beast Syndrome, specifically of the dog type. It boosts the user's physical strength and grants them the instincts and special traits of the beast they're modeled after. He adds that it's the same ability people use to call divine possession or liken to werewolves and other mythical things. Akagi doesn't quite follow what he means, since awakened humans only started showing up about 11 years ago. Vox pauses, then tries to play it off, saying that sometimes these things slip out. But this power has always been dormant in humans. Akagi quietly thinks to himself that Vox always avoids the real answers and probably knows more than any human ever should. Doggy runs over and apologizes for jumping in, but Akagi thanks her sincerely for saving him, which makes her heart flutter. He asks if she can still fight with him now that he has cooled his head. As she steps up to help him stand, Yachi throws a rock at them and steps outside the building. He recognizes her as Rika's dog and mocks her for already wagging her tail for her new master. Doggy screams again to shut him up, but this time he uses his metamorphosis skill to block the sound by covering his ears, making her move ineffective. Still, since he can't hear anything now, he fails to catch the plan they whispered to each other. She quickly grabs Akagi and lifts him on her back, then jumps to escape. Yachi realizes he has been tricked and leaps into the air using his metamorphosis skill, confident that she cannot outrun him. Doggy bounds over the rooftops as if she were the Hulk, jumping huge distances with Akagi on her back. She apologizes for smelling like a beast, but he tells her she doesn't smell bad at all. Instead, he wants to know what the Hunter Association and the police are doing about everything. However, the wild leaps make it hard to talk, and he worries that if he keeps trying, he might bite his tongue. So for now, he decides to trust her and stay quiet. Suddenly, she senses Yachi approaching fast and quickly shifts direction, dodging an incoming attack just in time. Yachi closes the gap with a powerful leap and tries to catch up, but Doggy refuses to let him. She pushes herself to flee at full speed. However, midway through the chase, her mana runs out, and they both come crashing down onto a rooftop. Yachi finally reaches them and stands across with a smug look, saying it's impressive that a B-rank hunter lasted this long, but now it's over. He jumps down with a magic charge kick aimed at Akagi. When he lands though, he's stunned to see that Akagi isn't beneath him, but standing a few feet ahead. Yachi is confused and wonders if he's somehow missed, but Akagi explains that what he saw was a mirage caused by the extreme heat difference.